Thank you, little one.
You look sad.
Not anymore.
What would you do if a stranger leaned close and whispered, "You're not blind, it's your wife who put something in your food," and suddenly every dark corner of your life began to make sense? Stay with me until the end, because this isn't just a story about betrayal, it's about truth hiding in plain sight, love tested by lies, and a man who had to lose his sight to finally see who was standing beside him. The first time Daniel Hartman noticed the darkness, he thought it was stress. At 45, Daniel was a self-made millionaire. He had built his logistics company from a single rented truck into a nationwide empire. His name was respected in boardrooms, his decisions moved markets, and his life looked perfect from the outside. He had a luxurious home, a beautiful wife named Victoria, and everything money could buy. But money couldn't buy back his sight. It started with mild blurriness. Letters on contracts seemed to dance. Streetlights looked like smudged halos at night. Doctors blamed exhaustion. Too much screen time, one said. Early neurological symptoms, another guessed. Expensive tests followed, but no clear diagnosis came. Within months, Daniel's world dimmed like a fading sunset. Victoria became his guide. She fed him, drove him, attended meetings with him. She held his arm in public with such devotion that people praised her endlessly. "You're lucky to have her," his assistant once whispered. Daniel believed it too. He clung to her voice the way a drowning man clings to driftwood. Yet something felt off. His blindness progressed strangely. Some mornings he could see faint shadows, other days, nothing at all. The doctors were confused. "It's unusual," they said. "The pattern doesn't match typical degenerative conditions." But Daniel was too exhausted to question further. Then came the charity gala. Victoria insisted he attend despite his worsening condition. "People need to see you strong," she told him gently, guiding his hand to the car. At the event, surrounded by music and polite applause, Daniel felt more alone than ever. Darkness pressed against his eyes like a heavy curtain. While Victoria mingled, Daniel sat at a quiet table, sipping the juice she had handed him earlier. That's when he heard a soft voice near his shoulder. "You're not blind," the girl whispered. He stiffened. "Excuse me?" "It's your wife," she said quickly, her voice trembling but firm. "She put something in your food. My mother used to work in your house. She saw it." Daniel's heart pounded violently. "Who are you?" "My name is Alina. My mother was your cook until last month. She was fired after she confronted your wife." The girl swallowed hard. "The powder, she mixes it in your meals. Small amounts. It affects your nerves." The world tilted. Daniel wanted to dismiss her as crazy. But something inside him, something that had been quietly whispering for months, suddenly grew loud. "Why tell me this?" he asked carefully. "Because my mother is in the hospital," Alina replied. "After she argued with your wife, she fell down the stairs. But before that, she told me everything. She said you were a good man. That you didn't deserve this." Footsteps approached. Victoria's perfume floated through the air like a warning. Alina squeezed Daniel's hand. "Stop eating what she gives you. Get tested without her knowing." And then she was gone. That night, Daniel lay awake in the darkness, listening to Victoria's steady breathing beside him. His mind replayed every strange detail from the past year. The sudden firing of loyal staff. Victoria insisting on preparing his meals herself. The way she discouraged second medical opinions. The next morning, he made a decision. He pretended nothing had changed. When Victoria handed him breakfast, he lifted the spoon to his lips, and discreetly let the food fall into a napkin. When she gave him juice, he poured it into the sink when she left the room. He secretly called his old friend Mark, a doctor he trusted completely, and asked for private tests, without Victoria's knowledge. The results came back 3 days later. There were traces of a rare neurotoxin in his bloodstream. Not enough to kill. Just enough to slowly damage vision and nerve responses. It's been administered in small, consistent doses, Mark said quietly. Daniel, someone is poisoning you. The word echoed like thunder. Poisoning. Daniel sat in silence for a long time. The betrayal hurt more than the diagnosis. This was the woman who held his hand, who kissed his forehead at night, who told him she would be his eyes forever. Why? The answer came quicker than he expected. Mark dug deeper into financial records. Daniel could no longer review himself. Large sums of money had been transferred into accounts Daniel didn't recognize. Victoria had recently updated his will, making herself the sole controller of his company in case of permanent disability. Permanent disability. Blindness. Everything aligned like pieces of a cruel puzzle. Daniel felt anger rising, but beneath it was heartbreak. He remembered the early days of their marriage, when Victoria had seemed different, softer, warmer. Had she changed? Or had he simply never seen her clearly? He didn't confront her immediately. Instead, he continued pretending to decline, even exaggerating his helplessness. Victoria grew more confident, more careless. He overheard her speaking on the phone one night. Just a little longer, she whispered. The doctors think it's irreversible. Soon the board will step aside. Daniel's chest tightened, but he remained silent. The darkness no longer felt like a prison. It felt like camouflage. Over the next few weeks, Daniel worked quietly behind the scenes. Mark coordinated treatment to flush the toxin from his system. Gradually, faint outlines began returning. Light pierced through the fog like morning breaking over mountains. Daniel said nothing. He hired a private investigator through Mark, gathering evidence. Hidden cameras in the kitchen. Financial tracking. Voice recordings. Every truth layered upon truth. One afternoon, as Victoria stirred soup in the kitchen, Daniel stood silently in the doorway, his vision now partially restored. He watched her remove a small silver vial from her pocket. His heart cracked in two as she emptied a measured pinch into the pot. It wasn't suspicion anymore. It was proof. That evening, he invited her to sit with him in the living room. I've been thinking about the future, he said calmly. About updating the company structure. Victoria's voice carried excitement she tried to hide. That's wise, darling. I'll handle everything. He smiled faintly. I know you will. The next day, during a board meeting she believed was routine, Daniel walked in without assistance. The room fell silent. Victoria froze. He looked directly at her. I can see, he said simply. The color drained from her face. The board members stared in shock as Daniel played the recordings, presented the lab results, and revealed the financial transfers. Victoria's composure shattered. It was supposed to be temporary, she cried. You were always busy, always working. I deserved security. You had security, Daniel replied quietly. You had love. Tears streamed down her face, not from remorse, but from being caught. Authorities were called. The investigation moved swiftly. The evidence was undeniable. But the story didn't end with revenge. Weeks later, as Daniel's sight continued improving, he visited a small hospital room. Alina's mother lay recovering from her injuries. When Daniel entered, Alina stood quickly. I can see you now, he said softly. The girl's eyes filled with tears. He covered the hospital expenses. He ensured the mother's safety and offered her a position back in his company, if she wanted it. Alina received a scholarship funded quietly in Daniel's name. Standing outside the hospital that day, sunlight warming his face, Daniel understood something profound. Blindness hadn't been his greatest loss. Trust had. But even deeper than betrayal was the courage of a young girl who chose truth over fear. One whisper had saved his life. Months later, Daniel rebuilt his company structure with transparency and accountability. He surrounded himself with people who valued integrity over profit. He learned to slow down, to listen, to truly see the people around him. Because sometimes, darkness enters your life not to destroy you, but to reveal who is holding the light. And if there's one lesson Daniel carried forward, it was this. Never ignore the quiet voice that warns you. And never underestimate the power of someone brave enough to speak the truth. If you stayed until this moment, remember, real vision isn't about what your eyes can see. It's about recognizing who feeds your soul, and who slowly steals it.